After losing his father, a violent alcoholic who despised lawyers, Rudy Baylor was left without a home and without any clear direction in life. He supported himself by working behind a bar while struggling to finish law school. Even after earning his law degree, he still could not find a stable position. While his classmates easily stepped into jobs through family connections, Rudy was left waiting, hoping that anyone would finally give him a chance. His employer eventually introduced him to a lawyer named Bruiser Stone, who had a questionable reputation and was well known for handling dishonest business. Bruiser agreed to let Rudy work with him, but there would be no regular paycheck. Instead, Rudy would only earn money if the cases they took to court ended in a victory. With no better opportunity available, Rudy accepted the offer. He then told Bruiser that he already had 2 cases on his hands. One involved taking legal action against a health insurance company, while the other focused on preparing the will of an elderly woman. Although the work was far from ideal, it was Rudy's first real opportunity to prove himself as a lawyer. While settling into the office, Rudy was introduced to Dec Chifflet, an energetic assistant who insisted he knew everything about insurance cases despite never becoming a licensed attorney. Dec shared practical advice that he believed every young lawyer should follow. He explained that clients should always sign legal papers as early as possible before another attorney has the chance to take the case. Soon afterward, they stepped outside, and Dec began showing Rudy everything that Bruiser owned. When they reached Rudy's car, Dec noticed that all of Rudy's belongings were packed inside it and asked if he was moving. Rudy admitted that he had been evicted and even showed him the eviction notice. Feeling sorry for him, Dec assured Rudy that he would help him. This was the moment Rudy truly had to start over. Following that advice, Rudy dressed professionally and went to meet his first clients, the Black family. They were desperately trying to save their son, Donnie Ray, who was in the final stages of leukemia. The family's health insurance provider, Great Benefit, had repeatedly refused to pay for the treatment he desperately needed. Instead of helping, the company continued rejecting every claim with unreasonable excuses, leaving the family exhausted, frustrated, and rapidly running out of hope.
Well, when Donnie Ray was diagnosed, why'd y'all wait till now to consult a lawyer?
Stupid, I guess. I just kept writing them, and they kept writing me back, and this here is the latest one.
Dear Mrs. Black,
As Donnie Ray's mother showed Rudy the stack of letters from the insurance company, she explained how every request for help had been rejected. A short time later, Donnie Ray walked into the room looking extremely weak. His face was pale, and he barely had any strength left. Rudy carefully explained all the necessary legal steps and handed them the paperwork to sign. His mother signed first, then stepped outside to ask Donnie Ray's father, who usually sat alone in his car drinking, to sign the papers as well. After Donnie Ray sat down to speak with Rudy, his nose suddenly began bleeding heavily. Seeing the boy's condition made Rudy realize this was far more than just another legal case. Donnie Ray's life depended on someone finally standing up for him. Even though his nose was bleeding uncontrollably, Donnie Ray was still determined to sign the paperwork and fight for justice. His family completed the necessary documents, officially trusting Rudy to represent them and take on the insurance company. Afterward, Rudy visited an elderly woman named Miss Birdie who wanted assistance preparing her will. She made it clear that she intended to leave her entire estate to a television celebrity instead of any of her children or relatives. Rudy gently suggested that she reconsider, but she remained firm and instructed him to prepare the document exactly as she wanted. Before leaving the property, Rudy noticed a small apartment behind her house and asked if it was available to rent. Miss Birdie told him that he could stay there if he helped her with some chores around the garden. For the first time since losing his home, Rudy finally had a place where he could sleep and begin rebuilding his life. The following day, Dec took Rudy somewhere completely unexpected. Instead of heading to an office or a courthouse, they went to a hospital in search of potential clients. Dec confidently walked past nurses and security staff, moving from one patient to another while offering legal services to people recovering from serious injuries. One badly injured man, whose entire body was covered in a cast and who could barely move, still managed to sign the legal papers Dec placed in front of him. Rudy was deeply uncomfortable by everything he witnessed. This aggressive approach was nothing like the legal profession he had imagined while studying in law school. Dec, however, treated it as perfectly normal, explaining that the most successful lawyers often found their clients in hospital rooms and crowded hallways rather than inside a classroom or an office.
You haven't talked to any insurance companies, have you? No.
Good. Don't talk to them because they're just out to screw you. Do you have a lawyer?
No.
My firm handles more car wrecks than anybody in Memphis. Insurance companies are terrified of us, and we don't charge a dime.
The next day, Rudy was studying at the law firm when Bruiser noticed him and asked what he was doing. Rudy explained that he was preparing for his bar exam, which was only a week away. Instead of encouraging him to keep reading, Bruiser told him to put the books aside. He insisted that Rudy would learn far more by going to hospitals with Deck than by sitting behind a desk memorizing legal material. From that point forward, Rudy spent most of his time visiting hospitals instead of staying in the office. Together, he and Deck searched for injured people who might need legal representation, giving Rudy a first-hand look at the harsh reality of the business. During one of those visits, while Rudy was reading a newspaper in the waiting area, he noticed a young woman wearing several casts, with a man standing closely beside her. The way the man constantly watched over her immediately caught Rudy's attention. The woman, Kelly Riker, had visible bruises. Both of her arms and one of her legs were in casts, and she looked frightened and emotionally drained. When the man suddenly raised his voice at her, Rudy immediately suspected that she was a victim of domestic abuse, reminding him of the way his own father had treated his mother. He quietly pointed out what he had seen to Deck, who explained that Kelly had been hospitalized several times before. The previous night, the police had found her badly beaten after her husband became intoxicated and attacked her with a baseball bat. Deck added that despite everything she had endured, Kelly had never been willing to take legal action against her husband. Based on her past, he believed she would never become a client. Even so, Rudy could not stop thinking about her or forget the fear he had seen in her eyes. That was terrifying. It shows how brutal her life had become. At the same time, as Rudy continued working on Miss Birdie's will, he slowly began learning more about her financial situation. Deck explained that she had once lived comfortably on the money her late husband had left behind. However, years of paying taxes and making poor investments had gradually drained her savings until she was left with only about $40,000. What had first appeared to be a straightforward legal matter was slowly revealing itself to be a much sadder and more complicated story than Rudy had expected. The following morning, Rudy woke up to the sound of Miss Birdie happily singing while making plenty of noise around the property. He went over to greet her, and the two shared a brief conversation before he headed back to the hospital because he could no longer ignore his concern for Kelly. After noticing her sitting alone in tears, he gathered the courage to approach her with kindness. Rudy introduced himself and gently told her that she could contact him if she ever needed help. Kelly invited him to sit down, and they spent some time talking together. As the conversation continued, she slowly became more comfortable around him, sensing that he genuinely cared about her well-being rather than simply seeing her as another client. In the middle of their conversation, Rudy received a phone call from Bruiser, who was checking to see how he was doing with finding new clients. While Rudy was speaking on the phone, a caregiver arrived and helped Kelly back to her room. Before she left, Rudy told her that he had truly enjoyed talking with her, and Kelly quietly smiled before leaving. The next day, Rudy returned to the hospital to visit Kelly again because he could not stop thinking about her and wanted to protect her in any way he could. During their conversation, he learned that she had married her husband when she was only 18 years old and had once become pregnant, but sadly lost the baby through a miscarriage. Rudy gently helped Kelly back to her room and carefully assisted her onto her bed. He encouraged her to leave her abusive husband, report everything that had happened to the authorities, and give herself a chance to start a safer and happier life. Despite his encouragement and genuine concern, Kelly remained trapped by fear, and the thought of standing up to her husband still felt impossible for her. Kelly admitted that she had been through the same nightmare many times before. She believed that if she ever tried to leave her husband or report his abuse, he would find her and kill her. Rudy understood just how terrified she truly was. Rather than pressuring her to make a decision she was not ready for, he patiently listened to everything she had to say and gently reassured her that she was not alone. His compassion gave Kelly a rare moment of comfort, even if she still could not see a way to escape her situation. I feel like Rudy gets Kelly like no one else. The next day, Rudy was startled by noises coming from his apartment and called out, thinking someone had broken in. As he went upstairs, he saw a woman going through his things and asked her who she was. He soon discovered that the visitors were Miss Birdie's son and daughter-in-law. They had come hoping to learn about her will and expected Rudy to reveal what they would inherit, even though Miss Birdie was not willing to tell them anything. Staying true to his professional responsibilities, Rudy refused to discuss the matter because of attorney-client confidentiality. Realizing what they were after, he quickly mentioned that Miss Birdie still had a large amount of money remaining. The moment they heard that, their behavior completely changed. Instead of acting distant and selfish, her son suddenly became affectionate and eagerly suggested that his mother visit them in Florida for a while.
Who the hell are you?
Oh my gosh. I'm Delbert's wife.
Delbert? Who the hell is Delbert? How did you get in here?
Bertie gave me the key. Yes, who are you?
I am the person who lives here. Do you understand that? You have no right to be in here. This is a
Oh,
private
yeah,
residence.
right. Someplace. Get a grip. Bertie wants to see you.
Even with constant interruptions and personal challenges, Rudy remained focused on preparing for the bar exam. Becoming a licensed attorney was still his biggest goal. As he continued handling his cases, he treated his clients differently from most lawyers. Rather than seeing them as files or opportunities to earn money, he built genuine relationships with them. He took Donnie Ray outside so he could enjoy some fresh air, and while they were driving around, he saw Kelly with her husband and felt disappointed. He then took Donnie to meet Miss Birdie, and the two of them began spending time visiting her. Rudy showed both of them the same care and respect he would have given to his own family. Before long, Rudy's hard work finally paid off. Miss Birdie arrived with a letter and told Rudy that it was for him. As he opened it, he received the news that he had passed the bar exam and was officially a licensed lawyer. He became overwhelmed with happiness and hugged Miss Birdie. After some time, to celebrate the achievement, he and Deck met Bruiser at a restaurant. During the meal, Bruiser rewarded them with a $55,000 bonus each and gave them another surprise by telling them they would personally present the arguments in court instead of leaving the job to someone more experienced. After the celebration, Deck showed Rudy a newspaper report that raised serious concerns. The article revealed that Bruiser's former business partner had been arrested. Deck worried that the man might reveal information about Bruiser's illegal activities and that their entire operation could soon collapse. Deck then suggested that they rent a small office and split every cost equally, and after thinking about it for a minute, Rudy agreed. Soon, Deck's fears became reality when federal agents arrived at the law office the following morning. Bruiser vanished, leaving Rudy and Deck to deal with the situation alone. Looks like Bruiser left them hanging.
I've memorized
Although
the
Deck
black
was still
files
not a
cold.
licensed attorney, the two decided they had no choice but to continue with the case themselves. They prepared for court and stepped forward without Bruiser's support. When the hearing began, Rudy admitted that he had not yet officially completed the process required to become a lawyer. The judge immediately began questioning him, but before he could stop Rudy from continuing, the insurance company's attorney, Leo F. Drummond, stepped in and requested that Rudy be allowed to proceed. The judge unexpectedly approved the request, giving Rudy the chance to argue the case in court for the first time. Later, in the judge's private office, Leo approached Rudy with a settlement offer. He introduced himself as one of the most successful and highly paid attorneys in the country and offered Rudy $50,000 to end the case. He also suggested that he might be able to raise the amount to $75,000. However, the offer carried an unspoken warning. Leo made it clear that rejecting the settlement would lead to a long and difficult legal battle against a powerful insurance company. After hearing the amount of money being offered, the judge also encouraged Rudy to consider accepting it, explaining that companies like Great Benefit were rarely defeated in court. Outside, Deck was waiting for Rudy, and as they walked out together, Rudy told him about the offer. Deck also insisted that he accept the deal, telling him that they would receive $25,000 and that they needed the money they would get from the settlement. However, Rudy did not make the decision immediately. Instead, he returned to the Black family and presented the offer to them. Despite the risks ahead, Donnie Ray and his family refused to give up. They had already fought too hard and believed that accepting the settlement would not bring them the justice they were seeking. The Black family refused to accept the settlement and told Rudy that they were ready to continue fighting, no matter how difficult the case became. Hearing their determination gave Rudy the motivation he needed. He decided to fully commit himself to the case and stand with them until the very end.
$75,000. They figure that's what it's going to cost to pay their lawyers to defend the case.
Some bitches think they can just buy us off, huh?
That's exactly what they think.
You better talk to him.
With the lawsuit becoming more serious, Rudy and Deck rented a small apartment and converted it into a simple office where they could work. Rudy spent long hours studying documents, reviewing laws, and searching for anything that could help them challenge the insurance company. While preparing, he received unexpected news from Deck that the judge assigned to their case had passed away after suffering a heart attack. The case was then transferred to Judge Tyrone Kipler, a respected judge known for being fair and independent. He had studied at Harvard and had a reputation for treating people equally in court. The change worried Leo because he knew this judge would not easily favor a powerful company. Instead, Judge Kipler challenged them and did not make things easy like the previous judge had. On the other hand, for Rudy, the new judge represented a rare opportunity to receive a fair hearing. During the first hearing under Judge Kipler, Rudy requested that Donnie Ray's testimony be recorded at his home because his illness had become too severe for him to appear in court. Leo immediately opposed the request, but Judge Kipler refused to let the insurance company control the process and approved Rudy's request. The judge became a major obstacle for Great Benefits lawyers, but for Rudy, he represented the possibility that the truth could finally be heard. Soon after, Rudy went to their office and started going through the mail. He noticed that they had spent most of their money on unnecessary things and realized they were on the verge of going broke. While looking through the mail, he found an invitation to a Christmas sale from Kelly inside one of the envelopes. I didn't expect Kelly to reach out, but she did. When the day of Donnie Ray's testimony arrived, Judge Kipler and several attorneys representing Great Benefit traveled to the Black family's modest home. Deck helped prepare the room for the legal proceedings, while Donnie Ray's father, as usual, went to his nearby car and started drinking, still struggling with the effects of his past trauma. Despite his weak condition and the pressure surrounding him, Donnie Ray gave his testimony calmly and honestly, understanding that this might be his final opportunity to tell his story. Soon afterward, Rudy went to the shop where Kelly worked. Inside, Kelly pretended that she did not know Rudy and started showing him necklaces. As he came closer to her, she told him to go to the movie theater, buy a ticket, and wait for her there. Rudy then went to the theater and started waiting for Kelly. Soon enough, she arrived and sat beside him. She told him that her husband wanted to have a baby, and Rudy reminded her that she had a choice. However, Kelly explained that she only wanted to see him, kissed him on the cheek, and left. A few days later, Rudy continued building the case by traveling by bus to Cleveland, where Great Benefit was headquartered. His goal was to question company employees and uncover information that could prove the insurance company had acted unfairly. At Great Benefit's headquarters in Cleveland, Rudy entered a plain office where he was surrounded by a group of experienced defense attorneys. They treated him as if he had no chance of challenging them. When Rudy began asking questions about the Black family's insurance claim, he discovered that the employees who had originally handled the case were no longer with the company. One by one, they had disappeared from the records, leaving Rudy with very little information to work with. I honestly feel bad for Rudy. Instead of backing down, Rudy decided to take a risk. He brought up the company's vice president, hoping he might still have some connection to the claim. Fortunately, the man was still working at Great Benefit, giving Rudy a new direction for his investigation. Although he left Cleveland without much evidence, he now had a possible witness who could reveal important information about the company's actions. Soon after returning, Rudy received devastating news. Donnie Ray had passed away. Despite having health insurance and the availability of medical treatments, Donnie never received the support he needed from the company that was supposed to protect him. His death left his family heartbroken and reminded Rudy of what was truly at stake. Although he was inexperienced and facing a team of powerful attorneys, Rudy became even more determined to fight against the injustice that had taken Donnie's life. This made it personal for Rudy. That same night, Rudy received a frightened call from Kelly. She had been attacked by her husband again and needed help. He asked her where she was, and she told him that she was at the store where she worked. Rudy immediately went to find her, and when he saw her, she was covered in bruises and bleeding. He quickly helped her escape the situation and brought her to Miss Birdie's house, where she could stay somewhere safe. While he was preparing to challenge Great Benefit in court, he was also becoming someone Kelly could depend on during the most difficult time of her life. The next day, when Rudy arrived at the office, Deck stopped him before he could enter. Without saying much, Deck showed him a letter explaining that they had discovered a listening device hidden inside the room. Someone had been secretly monitoring their conversations, proving that the insurance company was watching their every move. Deck quickly suspected that involving the police would not help them, so he came up with another plan. Instead of exposing the hidden device, he decided they could use it against the people who were listening. He pretended to make a phone call to Rudy and acted as if the Black family had agreed to settle the case for $175,000. The plan worked exactly as they expected. The following day, Leo Drummond unexpectedly returned with a settlement offer close to that amount. This confirmed that Leo had been using the hidden microphone to monitor their conversations. Rather than reporting the situation, Rudy and Deck decided to turn the surveillance against him and create a trap of their own. They arranged a fake conversation involving a jury list, making it appear that they were secretly discussing information they should not have access to. Deck used a public phone to make the call, while another person pretended to be a potential juror. They knew Leo would react if he believed Rudy was trying to influence a juror, and their plan succeeded. On the first day of trial, Leo entered the courtroom and accused Rudy of illegally communicating with a juror. However, when the supposed juror was questioned, the situation quickly turned against Leo. One of the jurors became angry during the exchange and attacked him in front of everyone. The courtroom became chaotic, and Rudy and Deck quietly realized that they had managed to unsettle one of their biggest opponents.
Correct question. And I'd appreciate an honest response.
You ask an honest question, I'll give you an honest answer.
Fair enough. Did you, Mr. Porter, or did you not have a phone conversation a few days ago with Mr. Rudy Baylor?
Hell no.
I thought you were going to give me an honest answer.
I gave you an honest answer.
Are you sure, Mr. Porter?
I'm damn sure.
Mr. Porter, in a courthouse. In a courthouse in the United States. In a courthouse of justice, state of Tennessee. I say you did not provide an honest answer.
Don't call me a liar.
Oh, you're a liar, all right. Son of a bitch.
Order in the court.
Meanwhile, at Miss Birdie's home, Kelly finally took an important step toward changing her life. She signed the divorce papers and began moving away from the control of her abusive husband. With Rudy's support, she started believing that a safer future was possible. Back in court, Rudy continued presenting his case against Great Benefit. He wanted the jury to understand how the company had treated the Black family and how unfairly their claim had been rejected. He introduced the harsh denial letter sent to Mrs. Black as evidence of the company's actions. However, when Rudy began questioning her about the letter, Leo immediately objected, arguing that Rudy was guiding her answers instead of allowing her to respond freely. Judge Kipler intervened and showed Rudy the proper way to question a witness. The moment reminded everyone that Rudy was still inexperienced and learning how to handle the pressure of a courtroom. His strong desire to help the Black family was clear, but passion alone was not enough. He still had to learn the rules and control his emotions while presenting his case. When Leo questioned Mrs. Black, he took a much more aggressive approach. He argued that she already knew Donnie Ray's cancer was terminal and suggested that the treatment she fought for would not have changed the outcome. His goal was to make the jury doubt her honesty and paint her as someone who refused to accept the truth. Despite the harsh questioning, Mrs. Black remained calm. She explained that she only wanted her son to receive the best possible medical care because any parent would want to do the same for their child. Her response reminded Rudy why he had chosen to fight the case. He knew he was young, inexperienced, and facing opponents with far more knowledge and resources. But he believed standing up for people who had been treated unfairly was still worth fighting for. Later that night, Rudy accompanied Kelly back to her home so she could collect her belongings and finally leave her abusive husband. However, while they were packing her things, they heard a noise outside. When Kelly went to check, she discovered that it was her husband. He broke through the door, and the situation quickly became violent. Her husband became furious and started beating her, and when Rudy intervened to stop him, he was attacked as well. After a series of fights, Rudy tried to protect Kelly and struck the man with a baseball bat, knocking him down. However, Kelly, overwhelmed by years of abuse and anger, told Rudy to give her the bat and leave. She then took the bat from Rudy and ended the fight herself. "I didn't think it would end like this." Shortly afterward, Rudy quickly left, and the police arrived and arrested Kelly for her husband's death. Rudy watched helplessly from a distance inside his car as she was taken away. Back in the trial, Rudy called Great Benefit's vice president to testify. He questioned the executive about the company's harsh responses and its refusal to help the Black family. However, the man avoided responsibility and claimed that the decisions had been made while he was under pressure and dealing with stress. Rudy continued questioning the vice president about the company's actions, but the executive avoided giving clear answers. When Rudy asked about an important claims clerk who had been fired only 2 days before the trial began, the vice president claimed he could not remember the details. Despite Rudy's attempts to uncover the truth, it seemed like the information he needed was always just out of reach. However, Deck continued investigating behind the scenes. After searching for more information, he managed to locate the former clerk who had disappeared from the company. Her name was Jackie, and she agreed to come forward and explain what had happened.
Letter of denial.
Why?
Because all claims were initially denied.
All claims?
All claims.
When Jackie appeared in court, she revealed that she had worked for great benefit for 6 years and that the company gave her the choice between leaving with nothing or being paid $10,000 to remain silent after she was dismissed. She also confirmed Rudy's suspicions about the company's internal practices. According to her testimony, the company trained its employees to reject insurance claims using a secret claims manual that instructed them on how to systematically deny requests. The testimony appeared to be a major breakthrough for Rudy, but Great Benefits lawyers quickly attacked Jackie's credibility. They attempted to portray her as unreliable by bringing up her personal struggles, including her history with alcohol, being a single mother, and having an affair with the company's vice president. Jackie did not deny her past. Instead, she explained that within Great Benefits' workplace culture, personal relationships with powerful people were sometimes seen as the only way employees could advance. Although Jackie's testimony revealed serious problems within the company, the judge ruled that the claims manual could not be presented to the jury because it had been obtained through improper means. The evidence was considered stolen company material and was therefore not allowed in court. The judge's decision to exclude the claims manual left Rudy feeling like everything he had worked for was collapsing. After coming so close to exposing Great Benefits' actions, he suddenly found himself without the evidence he believed could prove the company's wrongdoing. That night, Deck decided they needed help and contacted Bruiser, who was hiding in the Caribbean. During their conversation, Deck learned about an older case involving stolen evidence that had still been accepted in court. Realizing this could give them a chance, Rudy and Deck decided to take the risk and use the claims manual despite the possible consequences. Soon after, Rudy received a phone call from the prison where Kelly was being held. He quickly rushed there and discovered that Kelly was being released without being charged because authorities believed it was self-defense. When the final stage of the trial arrived, Rudy returned to court with renewed confidence. He presented the previous case as a legal reason for allowing the manual into evidence and successfully submitted it for the jury to consider. He then called Great Benefits' CEO to the witness stand. Under oath, the executive was forced to read the section of the manual that instructed employees to reject claims even when the patients genuinely needed help. Rudy continued revealing the company's pattern by presenting records showing that more than 11,000 claims had been submitted, with over 9,000 denied. He also introduced company reports and internal documents that showed the problem was not caused by a few mistakes, but by a system designed to avoid paying claims. During the closing arguments, Leo used his experience and confidence to defend Great Benefit. He asked the jury to protect large companies like the insurance provider, arguing that they were important to society. He also attacked Mrs. Black's credibility and portrayed her as someone who could not be trusted. When Rudy delivered his final argument, he did not rely on complicated legal speeches. Instead, he returned to the person at the center of the case by showing Donnie Ray's recorded testimony. The video showed a seriously ill young boy who only wanted the opportunity to receive treatment and survive. His words reminded the jury that behind the numbers and documents was a real person whose life had been affected by the company's decisions. That sealed the case. As Donnie Ray's testimony video continued playing, Mr. Black quietly placed a photograph of his son in front of Great Benefits' CEO. Rudy then turned to the jury and reminded them that the company's actions could affect anyone. He explained that if Great Benefit was allowed to avoid responsibility, ordinary people could one day find themselves denied help when they needed it most. Instead of focusing only on the facts and numbers, he asked the jury to consider the human side of the case and the suffering caused by the company's decisions. Not long after the closing arguments, the jury returned with its verdict. They ruled in favor of the Black family and ordered Great Benefit to pay $50 million in damages. The decision became a major victory for Rudy and Deck, and they expected to receive more than $15 million in legal fees from the case. However, their celebration did not last long. A fax arrived informing them that Great Benefit had filed for bankruptcy. The company's CEO was also discovered while attempting to escape the country, leaving the awarded money impossible to collect. Rudy had to deliver the disappointing news to Mrs. Black. She listened calmly and showed no anger, because the money was never the reason she fought. For her, the important thing was exposing the company and holding it accountable for the way it treated her son. I'm with you, Miss Black. After the trial, Rudy and Deck became well known because of their victory against great benefit. Despite the attention and success, Rudy decided that he no longer wanted to continue practicing law. After everything he experienced, he chose a simpler life away from the pressure and conflict of the courtroom. He hoped to focus on finding peace and helping Kelly build a safer future after everything she had endured.